All righty, folks. Maybe we there? Yep, we're here. All right. I think we're getting pretty close, so we're going to go ahead and get this ball rolling here. Let me get my ducks in a row here. We're gonna call up House Bill 473 first. If you'll slide up here and present what you have for us, Chairman. Hopefully we've got a few more people coming in to hear this matter. And just so you know, what I have in front of me is LC 472334S. If that way we're working on the same gig. Okay, appreciate you. Go ahead, sir. Hold on, hold on.
Am I on?
All right, there you go. You live and cut.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. What I'm going to talk to you about today is House Bill 473, and the LC's already been cited, and that's what we're working off of. I want to first thank the committee for this substitute. They took what I thought was a good bill and made it even a much better bill. Basically, what it does is it identifies areas in the state where they have what we identify as a severely impacted tax digest due to a very large amount of state-owned property that comes off of the tax digest. And it expresses a will of the state to somehow compensate those counties or the county that is so severely impacted. And we do that by allowing the county to be licensed to operate a bingo game. And I would stress, it doesn't say games, it really says a bingo game. And further, it changes as we all know, we play bingo now down at the Presbyterian Church on Wednesday night. This does change the definition of bingo to allow for it to be played on an electronic device. It, however, requires that the player of that game be present to play, and it specifically states that that machine cannot dispense any winnings. So it's not a lottery machine. It is still a bingo game. I think that pretty well tells you what it does and the requirement to qualify as a severely impacted tax digest in a county is a county where the state owns more than 50,000 acres of land.
All right, thank you very much. So you do have a question, number 11?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Do you still have to holler out bingo to win?
I think they do have a way to do that, so you know when you win. You can punch it and it'll tell you bingo.
Well, to my friend down from South Georgia, I supported your bill the last time because I know you folks down there are hurting because of the conditions, and you're limited on what you can do. And I supported 150% this time. I appreciate you bringing this bill to us.
Thank you very much for that comment. And I might point out in McIntosh County, the state actually owns over 63,000, almost 63,000 acres of land. And it's not swamp. It's not lowlands. It's beaches and riverfront. It's some of the most valuable land in the entire state of Georgia.
Does anybody have any other questions? I know I will eventually. This is just too close. This is just too close to Big Daddy's house not to have a question. Is anybody here to speak on this bill? I will allow testimony on this bill because it's been a long time since we've heard on this. Step on up, Mr. Introduce yourself.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mike Griffin with the Georgia Baptist Mission Board. We certainly are sympathetic to what the representative's talking about. They do have a serious need. Of course, Georgia Baptists oppose any expansion of gambling, and I do know we already have it legalized regarding when you have nonprofits getting together for raffles and doing bingo games. I know that happens even at churches. I'm very much aware of that. Our concern is this if this is something by way of a machine that resembles what's already in Alabama that's happening at the Indian casinos over there, we're concerned about it being a camel getting his nose under the tent type of thing. Here we go. Legitimizing something for a real serious problem. There's no doubt. We're concerned that it might end up being something that could be more harmful around the state if it starts being expanded for another reason. I'm in my 60s, been here 17 years, pastored over 35 years. I know a lot of things only start out and they're very minimum. They don't really hurt anything, but that's kind of how they start. So I'm concerned. I don't necessarily believe that's what the representative is trying to do either, but I'm just concerned that it might end up being something that leads to something worse. So we would not be in favor of it on that standpoint. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir. I think you have a question, number 8.
Brother Griffin,
How you doing?
thank you, Mr. Chairman. You do know that he's a Methodist, don't you?
There's some fine Methodists around here.
I just want to let you know that the boys do a little different than us Baptists. But
Well, I know you don't
the
gamble.
one thing, no, sir, I tried it one time, but I do like the revenue. And you do realize that through no fault of the citizens of McIntosh County, some very fine citizens, that all the tax producing land was bought up by the state and the federal government, and they just don't have a stream of revenue. And
Absolutely.
that's an inherent problem down there.
Yeah.
But Reverend, I don't gamble, but I like the shows, the food, and the people watching. Don't.
You got one more, number 23.
Mr. Chairman, it's me. Thank you to the bill spot, not to Griffin.
Okay.
Oh,
Up
but
to the
then
bill
have a seat,
sponsor.
my man.
Well,
Thanks for coming
Thank
out.
you, Mr. Chairman.
Appreciate you coming up.
Most of the bill sponsor. When you look on lines in that section of 118 through 125 or 30 or 40 in there, we're talking about what the Secretary of State may do, examine. So they initially examine the machine, and then there's no responsibility thereafter to come back and check it annually, biannually, every 10 years or whenever, that I could see in a quick reading of this bill that they're responsible for making sure the accuracy or how these things work.
I think close examination, you might find there's some provision in there, and I think there's a penalty for, in fact, I know there's a penalty for operating a machine that's been tampered with and is not in the same condition it was when it was examined. Right.
I think these are a bunch of mays, may do this, may do that, as I read through there.
But I find here, let's see. On line 174, it talks about a $5,000 fine for violation, and one of those would be specifically operating that machine if it's been altered or damaged or not in the proper operating condition.
That means we'd have to catch them, but if the Secretary of State may examine whenever they want to or don't,
That'd be kind of like
how
a
you gonna
speeder.
catch them?
That'd be kind of like a speeder, wouldn't it?
You know,
It's
yeah,
against the
same
law,
sort of
you
thing.
gotta catch them.
If I may, Mr. Chairman, is it true the real reason for this bill is the state of Georgia is in default into the amount of dollars that they should be paying McIntosh County or tax due? Is that not true?
That question to me, that is true, and we made an effort last year to correct that and have the state pay those ad valorem taxes that are due, and it was so incredibly important to McIntosh County because it's difficult to operate schools, and when I look at who gets hurt, it's the least among us who are hurt the most, and unfortunately, the money that was in the budget that the General Assembly passed was there was a disregard on that amount of money.
Well, thank you. I got, if I can, Mr. Chairman, is there not, also anywhere too here that I saw that says that there will be division of these dollars that come in to the school system or to the county? How's it divided?
It's based on how they on their millage rate. So in this case, the school system would get about a little over 54% of all that money. And then when net revenues have exceeded the tax dollars that the county would receive if they could bill the state for them, there's a different provision. Some of that money then goes to the state or to the lottery.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I don't see those divisions in the reading of this bill.
Yeah.
Sorry to be a pain, but
That's okay. If you want that time, we could find them. Timmy, can you help me find that section? Okay, you're not gonna be able to help me then.
Try looking around lines,
If it-
267
Please, the chair,
to
may he
273.
run through this thing quickly, and let's see if we can answer the chairman's question. Is it?
Mr. Chairman,
Just, I could have done this in my sleep the first time we did it, but I apologize. I'm a little rusty today.
It be like that. Deputy 40 over there.
You're right. Thank you.
and lastly, while you're looking for that, I also don't see as many of our other games have as any percentage that would go to any kind of gambling addiction program that these usually have in it also.
That I think when that was there was some discussion about that, but since this was specifically aimed at replacing lost ad valorem tax revenue, that was not put in there for that specific reason. And again, it is bingo, and it says a bingo may be licensed for a bingo game, so they couldn't go have games all over the county.
They could sit there for hours on end. Is that not true?
Yeah,
Like a bingo game.
I don't think there's any restriction on how long they can play.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Absolutely. I'm actually going to go to Sean Marie real quick online. She has some information on the stuff that Chairman Jaspers was talking about, and then I'm going to go to number 11 just a second.
yeah, I did confirm that there's nothing
Are
in
you
the
there?
bill. I am. Can y'all hear me?
Sean Marie.
Hello?
Sean Marie.
Hello?
Yeah.
I'm
All right,
speaking.
we're gonna grab number 11 real quick while we're waiting on to figure that out.
Yeah, with regards to the licensure and the transparency with the Secretary of State, on line 136, it says a licensee utilizing electronic bingo machines and the associated system must maintain a log showing the date, model, and serial number of every machine that's in use at its facility. The information is required to be reported monthly to the Secretary of State's office. So doesn't that satisfy some oversight on the Secretary of State?
Thank you. The committee helped with that language and put that in there to satisfy some of those very questions.
If I may, Mr. Chairman, one more
Yeah,
question.
go ahead, buddy.
You know, as far as the gambling addiction, do we have any, with the COAM machines that we have operating and licensed in the state at these convenience stores? I mean, what kind of oversight do we have there that assures us that people that have a gambling addiction are not addicted to those machines? mean, that's just,
I can't answer that, but I do have to wonder. When I sit outside of a convenience store, when I'm purchasing gas there, and I see those that are probably the very lower income level in our state, and they go in repeatedly buy and scratch off lottery tickets. And these are probably people, the last ones that ever need to be gambling in any form. I think that if you look at what's going to happen with this bingo, that's not the clientele that these games are going to attract. I think it, for the most part, is going to attract those who are able to travel there and probably have the financial means to be involved in a game like that.
All righty. I think we have Sean Marie live now. Can you hear us, Sean Marie?
I can. Can you hear me?
Sean Marie.
Yeah, I'm speaking. Yeah. Sorry.
Sean Marie.
Hello.
Hey, we got something. That ain't pretty, but we got something.
Can you hear me now?
Ms. Chairman Jaspers, I don't know if this goes to your point, but the original intent was to incorporate the depressed tax digest county into 48-14-1, which was the original code section that allowed counties such as these to build forestry and get reimbursed for its tax bill. As it's funded through that and passed through that, the millage would have dictated and separated it. It looks inadvertently that some of that language from 273 to 277 was struck. It was meant to mirror the way the funding mechanism for the State Forestry Commission does right now. I don't think there'd be any objection, and I want to speak for the author, but of adding some clarity that that's how the funds should be divided, which is pursuant of how the millage in that county is divided between the county and the board, because that's the way that operates under the current code section and how these reimbursements are done. And because this is one or the other, and because one is supposed to be abandoned after a certain net income is generated by the county, the idea is that millage would have been the underlying division of the funds. So, I mean, it's supposed to be cross-referenced and incorporated, but I think that there could be some use for more clarity to demonstrate that.
It talks about State Forestry Commission. That's a 1963 law. I think Mr. Representative Harry Dixon was probably the author of that law. And Ware County started getting paid on that and did until very recently, but it does reference the State Forestry Commission in that.
Shall bill the State Forestry Commission pursuant to the tax digest. And because this bill in its current stat is supposed to create an alternative revenue stream in lieu of that option, the idea was that these funds would be distributed and separated in the same manner. So it was incorporated, as you can see, cross-reference. When you look at the definition of the press digest, it cross-references into qualified county in Title 48. But in lieu of that cross-reference, I think there's room for just a more clear, just direct funds shall be, any net funds that come from this to the county shall be distributed pursuant to how the millage rate and the millage is divided for said county. And that's it should be a pretty simple fix.
Just a quick question for the committee. What's the amount that the state should be sending McIntosh County? I mean, what's that number, the deficit that
is last year it was 2.08 million.
is what we put in the budget?
2.08 million.
Was the shortfall or was what we put in the budget?
That's what the county is losing.
Okay, I got you.
On most of it. We did not have all of it at that time. There's actually 63,000 acres, and the 46,000 acres that we showed last year when we attempted to get that money generated 2.08 million.
Gotcha.
And it should be noted that valuation was probably based, or that amount is probably based on valuations that are outdated.
Sure.
Like a valuation, for example, of Sapelo hasn't been done in quite some time, if I'm not mistaken. It might have been done recently, but I mean, that's just an example. I mean, McIntosh County proudly embraces the idea that it's the conservation county. It doesn't want to change that. It's something that they take great pride in.
but statutorily, the state of Georgia made this policy decision decades ago to make McIntosh County the conservation county. And when you look at the kind of development and tourism that exists north of McIntosh and south of McIntosh, and the amount of revenue that that tourism generates for their counties, that there is a way to be able to monetize and create a number objectively of what McIntosh County has lost over 50 years. Sapelo is a jewel. And I think McIntosh, anybody who's been to Sapelo would agree it's a jewel. But if the state would have passed 50 years ago that Glenn County should be conserved and St. Simon shouldn't be touched, what would have Sapelo's future been 50 years ago? What would it look like right now? And what kind of revenue stream would McIntosh County had that decision not been made for it 50, 60 years ago? I've been representing this county for a long time. I'm proud to represent them. And they do it. There needs to be a shout out to the county administrator, because what they do to provide the services to their community that they do with one arm tied behind their back isn't known and should be commended. And one thing McIntosh County has never done is look for a charity or a handout. They're just looking for something that acknowledges and mitigates the damage that was done to the county financially, so that it can scale and grow its services and grow its economy.
Mr. Chairman, can I just say this really quickly?
Yes, sir.
I got to tell you about McIntosh County. When you go to the school there, you look and there are all these backpacks there, and you say, what are those? The people in the community bring food there and put in those backpacks. So when the children go home at night, they have something to eat. And they bring those backpacks back the next day, and that's that's the community coming together to help solve a problem that's partially created by this loss of tax revenue. They're doing everything, and these aren't wealthy people that are doing that. They're doing everything they can possibly do to take care of the children in that community.
I think you got one more question, number 8.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Excuse me, I was listening. Mr. McDonald, he's so right on what he said. Some of the best kept secrets in Georgia. Things like in 1941, the federal government took over 3,000 acres of land off the tax rolls to have an Army airfield. Unfortunately, the ground would not support it, so that never happened. But did the federal government return that to the county and to the families that were put off the land? No, they did not. It turned into a grazing place for cows. And then, after many years of abuse and construction of one of the biggest houses of ill repute on the east coast of the United States, it finally went to the Department of Interior, not back to the citizens who have been gladly paying taxes. They were self-sustaining fishermen, oyster folk, farmers, and hunters, and great conservationists. But all that land went on the federal government's book, and it's called a reserve now, where the Starks have a place to go, the Orders and everybody else, and the descendants of Harris Neck has no place to go. Needs to be in the records.
Well said.
All right. Thank you for that. I guess at this time, the chairman would entertain a motion.
I move for due pass.
All right. We have a motion. We have a second. All in favor say aye to move this to full committee. Opposed? Now the ayes have it. The first ayes have it. And we'll send this on to full committee. I would urge you to have a substitute for that on the language of how they're going to disperse the funds and all that good stuff.
We will. Thank you very much.
Appreciate you very much. All right, Mr. Hilton, come on down. All righty. House Bill 398, I believe, is where we're at. We LC 280618. 0618S.
Correct.
You got?
Yep.
All right. We've kicked this horse to death. I hear we got a bunch of changes. Bill just got in front of me. So if you could go through the changes real quick, I am going to allow one individual to speak on the matter, but after we present this and kind of rumble through it as a committee, I want everybody to go home this weekend. Obviously, people are going to call you. Let's try to get our facts together and our thoughts around this thing and try to move forward with some compromise that we can live on, because we've exercised at least 20 hours of our life on this issue. So go right ahead.
Awesome. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Always fun following Charlton Heston there. So I'll do my best to give you guys a good deep. It was a joke. All right. Here pronounce House Bill 398 LC 28061-8S. As the chairman mentioned, we have beat this to death, but that's how good policy is made. And because we've done that, what we've done is we've come up with some good ideas that we've included in this new bill that you have before you. It contains components of the old bill, but also contains new information that came out from our previous meetings. So I'm going to walk you through it real quick. I want to thank, and I've got at the table with me, Les Schneider here. He's done an incredible job listening to y'all, listening to others in the committee, and helped kind of shape what you see before you today. As the chairman mentioned, we are still open to ideas and perfecting this so that works for all Georgians. I'll walk you through page 2, lines 16 to 23, essentially adds in some definitions that were not previously in code. Original ticket seller, defining what that is, and then defining ticket, which I'm kind of surprised that we didn't previously define that. And then it goes on to define ticket broker, which, if you think about it, ticket broker has really kind of changed what that is. Ticket broker used to be a guy, standing on the corner offering too. Now ticket broker is that person or someone who is facilitating the resale of a ticket. So added that, and you'll see that in lines 25 and 30 there. Moving on to page 3. I thought this was a beneficial section to add. This deals with strictly person-to-person ticket sales. So say Representative McDonald wanted to sell to Representative Collins here without going through any kind of intermediary, y'all could sell that ticket to each other. So if you look at specifically line 43 and 44, so y'all decide to sell each other a ticket without the use of a ticket broker or an online ticket broker and all that, you can do that. So basically person-to-person ticket sales, we're saying that's okay here in Georgia. I thought that was a pretty common sense piece of legislation there. Moving on to page 4 and on to page 5. This contains the verbiage from the original 398 that we've been discussing for the past several months. I do want to reemphasize, really kind of starting at line 8 there. There are a lot of provisions that we put in here. It's not a straight up, you can set, there's a lot of provisions that venues and artists can do. Starting at A there, you can still maintain and enforce policies with regards to conduct. If someone's not behaving, they can get kicked out. They can get put on the naughty list. B, you can establish a quantity to how many tickets are purchased. And then C, you can specify which groups are exempt. So say you're offering a discounted price, you're offering a special promotion, that could be exempt from this as well. Moving on to line 99 through 109, a big issue that we talked about was speculative sales or contingent sales. That section addresses that. This is the situation where I think somebody referenced the Savannah Bananas, where they went online, they saw Savannah Bananas tickets were up for sale, but the team hadn't actually issued any tickets yet. And so we put a section here that says you cannot do speculative ticket selling without clearly demarcating that on the ticket itself, so that the consumer has awareness and transparency to know, okay, they don't have the ticket yet. I'm sort of saving this seat for when the tickets are actually issued. So that section is speculative ticket buying. And then a big issue that came up from our committee hearings is addressed in section 4, which is in regards to the bot selling. So kind of lines 113 all the way through there. Again, this is something addressed at the federal level, but and that's really where we got this verbiage, was from the federal statute on this. We want to address this at a state level. It does come with criminal penalties that are outlined for violations on lines 135 to 137. And then finally, just given the in-depth conversation we've had around this bill, given the advances in technology and innovation, we thought it'd be worthwhile for the commission to undertake a more extensive examination and study of the regulation of ticket sales in Georgia. And so we put in some language in lines 150 to 156 to address that. So again, we've heard you, we've heard from the committee, we've addressed speculative ticket buying, person-to-person buying, and the bots and technology. So with that, I may pass it over to my good friend here, Les, to clean up anything I may have said wrong.
Members of the committee, Representative Hilton didn't say anything wrong. The bill before you is a lot of the feedback that people gave. There are obviously other things that you all can think about. There was a lot of complaints about a lack of enforcement, that people either get ripped off and they don't have a way to get their monies back and things like that. Obviously, some states are hoping that their AG or their district attorney will take care of those things. I have my doubts, not because of the competency of those offices, but with other crimes and stuff they take care of, the chances of them really focusing on that is not as great. So there have been other states that do allow a private cause of action by a ticket of somebody who didn't get the ticket they were supposed to get or something like that, where they can sue both the ticket broker as we defined in the bill, or they could sue the individual who was supposed to deliver the tickets to the ticket broker to get signed. So that's something for you all to think about. But at the end of the day, it does appear that what is trying to be done is to not let Representative Mitchell be in violation of the law because he has 2 tickets to the Braves game and he's not going to use them tonight and he wants to sell them directly to me. I think it's moronic to try to think you all are going to be able to control that and stop him from selling me the ticket directly. If Representative Mitchell just doesn't have any real desire to do any work in this area, so he doesn't want to search out a seller, he wants to call StubHub and say, you take care of it for me, and you can charge me something on the front side, and StubHub can charge somebody on the back side. That's commerce, and you've got to decide whether you want that to occur. If either Representative Mitchell doesn't get his money or I don't get my ticket in that situation, you all have to decide whether you care enough about the consumer to do something about that. And that has not been, addressed yet. But Representative Hilton has laid out what exactly is going on. Now, right now, a ticket broker, somebody who's buying tickets, they have to register with the state. They have to register with the Athletic and Entertainment Commission. They have to pay a certain amount of money to be licensed, and they're responsible for their sales. The issue is whether you want these secondary sellers to be responsible also. And that's your all's call. I mean, that's something you have to decide. I do think that there are laws in other states that are starting to be promulgated that you all need to look at. And that's why the last part of the bill, Section 6, is there, because we don't have to always reinvent the wheel. If somebody else has done a better job, I think we ought to look at it. And that's what the provision is going to provide for. But I think, again, the only way this is really going to get something accomplished is once this draft is looked at by all the parties who have a financial interest in all of this. They need to get in the room and talk about what other provisions may be necessary to be able to get this done. But this is a complicated issue to the extent that everybody will at least come off their hardened positions to a position to really do something that protects the consumer, whether they're buying from Ticketmaster because they are the ones who are responsible to sell the Braves tickets, or whether they're buying through StubHub, who is a secondary seller. And the question, I would think both sides And in both instances, everybody ought to have some protection over that. But I think unless you do something to that, you're going to leave the consumer out on the curb. So I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Are there any questions out there? Number 11.
I guess I'm still just kind of confused about the need for this legislation. You know, you look at events, sporting events, you look at concerts, people are going at an all-time high. Concerts are selling out. Our community partners, our state partners aren't asking for this legislation in terms of the Braves, the Hawks, the Atlanta United, those areas there of sports and the people that promote concerts. So, I mean, I'm just still confused as to why we're trying to push this legislation as hard as we are
In terms.
in terms of protecting the consumer.
Okay, well, let's look at it this way. You have Braves season tickets, right? And you have bought them. Do you think it ought to be against the law for you to sell that ticket directly to me? If you think you ought to be able to sell it directly to me, that's not necessarily permitted in the state of Georgia. So that would be one reason to have the bill. The second reason would be if you didn't want those tickets that night, but you knew it was a very hot ticket. The Yankees are coming to play the Braves, and you paid $100 for that ticket, but you want to sell that ticket for $400, but you don't want to be bothered doing anything about it. So you call a StubHub or whoever else you're going to use, and you say, I want $400 for that ticket, and just get it sold to somebody. The question becomes, should you be allowed to do that? Yes or no? If the Braves put something on the back of their ticket that says you cannot sell this ticket through a ticket facilitator, as a legislator, is that the policy you think the state of Georgia ought to have? I'm not here for StubHub or here for the Braves. My question is, as a consumer, if you bought the ticket, Representative Collins, should you have a right to sell that ticket again?
So
And how?
You're saying currently you can't sell the ticket. Is that what you're saying?
Well, if in fact, and I haven't bought tickets for the Braves in a little while, but at the end of the day, that in many situations, you will see on the back of the ticket that this is only a license. This is illegal for you to sell to anybody else.
So
If you want to resell that ticket, sometimes the Braves or whoever, and I don't mean to pick on them, but they may say you have to go back through one of their resellers in order for you to sell that ticket. And that has happened in other parts of the country. So you just have to decide, what do you want your right as a consumer to be once you've bought that ticket?
but to my friend who is
Yeah.
much more intellectual than I'll ever be, what I'm hearing you saying is you can sell your ticket now. That's what you just said.
If there's no restriction on the back of the ticket, that's correct. If there's no restriction and it says that if it said this is a license and only you can use this ticket, then you're limited. On the other hand, if you have the ticket in your hand, under the first part of the bill, you could sell it to anybody you want directly. The question is, if you sell it through these resellers, the question is going to be, is either you or StubHub or other people, are you going to buy up tickets to try to make a secondary profit on it? And again, I'm not against profit, but I'm saying that there is a complaint on behalf of some of the original sellers that why should you profit? They should get a piece of that second sale. We've heard it in the meetings. So the question becomes, what is the policy of Georgia do we want to have happen? We want, if in fact Representative Mitchell was going to sell his ticket through a StubHub to me, and he delivers me the ticket and I'm prepared to pay the price, I don't care that he's the guy who did it. But my point of view would be, if he screws me and pulls back that ticket to sell it to somebody else, and then I don't know until the day before the event, then I want to know that he did that, because I'd like to sue him as much as I'd like to sue StubHub. I just want there to be transparency of what this process is about. And also there's a sales tax obligation. He wants to get $400 and the ticket was $100. There's sales tax owed on that $300. And my bet is it never gets to the state. So it ought to. And there can be a process where that has to be reported by a StubHub or by a Ticketmaster if they're the secondary sellers. So I do think it's not hard to make this a clear path of what we want to do. I guess the question, Representative Collins, is where is the interest of when somebody sells out an entire venue and then they say, well, but they've sold it all to somebody who's now going to make twice as much money on it. Do they have a legitimate gripe here or not? How do we logically want to handle it? I think what Representative Hilton is doing is at least starting to show a path of what we should be looking at. If you or Representative Mitchell think that if you get screwed out of not getting the ticket that you paid for, that you should have a cause of action to go against those people, then we don't have that now. I will tell you that StubHub's policy is, we'll give you a refund. Well, a refund doesn't do you any good if you're in another state on a vacation and you were planning on going to that concert. So what do we do? And I mean, this is a matter, as Representative Powell would say, he would sit there and probably say something like, well, it's all about who's going to make the money on this thing. And he's not wrong, but I think Representative Hilton's main point is, where is the consumer in all of this? Where is the protection for the consumer? And he or anybody else shouldn't be made a criminal because they got 2 tickets and they're going to sell it directly to somebody else. That's rule number 1. Rule number 2 is what goal line or what barriers do you want to put up to allow selling through a secondary seller? And what are you going to do about these robots and all this other stuff where people grab out tickets and stop other people from actually getting them, and it's all for profit? I think these are the policy questions you have to answer.
All right.
I would just add, you can buy and sell now. I think for me, the crux of the bill comes down to lines 74 to 76, specifically through the use of technology, the wording through the use of technology. It shall be against public policy to prohibit or limit terms and conditions of resale through the use of technology. I think more and more what we're seeing is venues, original ticket sellers, and then their own reseller get in bed with each other vis-a-vis contracts and say, okay, we're going to kind of create this closed loop ecosystem where you can only resell on this platform. What we're saying, it's the posture of this body in Georgia is that, no, once you buy that ticket, you can sell it on any platform you like. And it's just sort of putting that stake in the ground there. Because more and more we're seeing it difficult to buy, sell, transfer outside of specific technology platforms.
Yep, get you one more.
It just seems to me that if you buy season tickets or Falcons tickets, Hawks tickets, they have a platform where you can sell your ticket, and it's a secure platform. And I don't want to say they can control it in the sense of control as I mean, dictate who you sell it to. But I remember a time in this state when we had scalpers at every event and you had counterfeit tickets, and the system that's been developed helps combat that so much and keeps that from really being an issue at game time. And I've yet to see a platform where they did not offer a venue to resell a ticket. So I'm not stuck with a ticket. If I purchase a ticket, I can't go for whatever reason, I can just simply put it on their platform and sell it. I mean, are you telling me that those platforms don't exist today?
It does, but we want you to have the ability to put it on as many platforms as you'd like so that you can get the best ticket for the price that you bought.
Or conversely, let's say that on that platform that you're putting it on, that it's going to cost you $25. I don't know what it's going to cost, but it's cost $25. If somebody said, I have a platform and I'll do it for 10, do you want to allow that competition or not?
All right, number 25.
Yes. So with a Falcons ticket, Braves, Hawks, what keeps you from just doing a transfer of the ticket and the person Venmo you the money? Why would you have to, even show how much you're reselling that ticket for if you just doing a transfer of your ticket to an individual and you take out all the letting Ticketmaster, StubHub, whoever, there's not even in their business. Just a simple transfer with a sale on Venmo.
So that's assuming you've got a buyer that you know. What we're trying to allow here is, not everybody may have a buyer, and so they want to be able to market their ticket on any platform. So yeah, in that case, certainly level. The only issue with that case too is that person you're selling to is going to have to download the specific Ticketmaster app or whatnot, and go through that process, as opposed to you just sort of freely, more easily giving it to them. But yeah, that works when you have an identified buyer, but when you want to sell it to anybody and whoever, that's where the challenges come in.
So a follow-up question. What do you know of any ticket provider that puts, no non-transferable anything on back of a ticket? Is there any history of that?
So we heard testimony, I think it was over the summer of musicians, acts that listed on there. This is a non-transfer, I think it was 4 or 5 acts here in Georgia that performed that had that type of condition on their tickets.
Is it disclosed when they buy the ticket?
Yeah, I believe so.
Like you see it, it's not in like small print.
Yeah,
Probably is small.
that's probably. Oh yeah.
But it is, it could be on a ticket.
I will interject on that piece because we had testimony from the Braves in Cobb County that did over the playoff tickets. The gentleman was here where they went after the guy bought those Braves tickets and then he resold them and it was in court because they said these tickets aren't transferable and he bought up a bunch of playoff tickets and was trying to make money. So that does occur. Anyway, number 18. Go ahead. One more. Go ahead. Go ahead.
This was from Mr. Snyder. I know you're talking about suing somebody over a ticket. Have you ever hired a lawyer?
I am a lawyer.
I know that. That's what I'm saying.
Let me say,
see how it'd be beneficial to.
well, let me tell you what.
I was wanting you to follow up on why that would be beneficial to you to go into a lawsuit.
In other states, you'll notice in Representative Hilton's bill, he talks about on line 99, contingent sale of tickets by ticket brokers are prohibited. That concept can certainly be expanded upon, but let's assume for a moment that Representative Jaspers and I and our respective wives, all they cared about was going to the World Series. And, we didn't want to hear any complaining by these women. So 5 months in advance, we paid $1,000 each to make sure we're going to that World Series because it's not worth having an argument with somebody you sleep with every night. So at the end of the day, we paid that money. It's on a credit card. 5 months later, 2 days before the game, they tell Representative Jaspers and I, you don't have those tickets. And we say, excuse me? And he says, well, we'll give you a refund. Well, a refund's not going to satisfy Mrs. Jasper and Mrs. Schneider, I assure you. And there's no remedy. And that's not right. So you can have class actions on people who try to speculate on tickets and then not deliver what they have. And if you provide attorney's fees and liquidated damages or whatever, you have an impact on that kind of behavior. And I think that's where it will come in. And this whole issue of bots that's been talked about or whatever, there will be I believe some aggressive lawyers or whatever that will get into the science of what's going on here and bust it, because I don't think you're going to have the attorney general or a DA spend the time and effort to get there.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to make sure that I understand what you just said. So under this new bill, LC 280618 as substitute bill, are you saying that it eliminates the opportunity for someone to say the ticket is non-transferable? Or are you saying this permits
It simply says on lines 41 through 47 that if it's a direct resell from the person who bought the ticket to the person who wants to buy the ticket, in that case could be you, they can't stop that transaction. All right, now if they go through StubHub or these other type of figures, there are certain other barriers around it, but a direct sale from me to you would not be able to be stopped, notwithstanding what they're putting on the back of the ticket.
Another question, Mr. Chair.
Yes, ma'am.
So with that situation scenario, I buy a ticket and I can sell it to an individual,
Right.
or I can sell it to a secondary or tertiary.
You can use
Broker.
you can use another service, right? What we call a somebody who facilitates the sale, a StubHub or somebody like that. With the lines 41 through 47 deal with just the direct sale from me to you. It doesn't deal with going through the secondary seller that's in the other parts of the bill.
And one last question, Mr. Chair.
Yep, one more.
So either it will be an individual purchaser of a ticket, or it will be the bots purchasing the tickets. And I just use it as an example to say how these secondary and tertiary brokers purchase mass blocks of tickets.
Right. In the old days, sometimes ticket brokers would put people online to stand in line to buy tickets, and they would buy as many as they could and then give them to the ticket broker to resell. And that caused a lot of upset among folks. Nowadays, apparently, there's all this IT stuff that tries to accomplish that same goal. And I assume the people who are selling the original tickets resent that, because sometimes they like the house full. And if they don't resell those tickets, then all of a sudden the people who are not in the seats, that venue is trying to get refreshments sold, memorabilia sold, products sold. And that's one of the complaints I think that we heard at the meeting.
And I do have one last one, Mr. Chair. This will be my last question. This will be my last of the last of the last, the last. So under this new substitute, an entertainer is prohibited from reserving a certain number of tickets for their certain fan base, or maintaining that certain tickets remain at a certain price level under this new.
No, I don't think we've stopped them. The original seller, they can hold back whatever they want. You all can decide whether you think they should disclose that to the public or whatever. But this version does not restrict them from saying we have 50,000 seats to sell. We're going to hold back 2,000 and we're going to charge a premium for that. They can still do that.
Thank you.
And I would also answer that question. If you go to line 85 through 94, it talks about them being able to not to offer non-transferable tickets for certain groups, et cetera. So that's still in there. If I've got a fan club and I want to sell cheaper tickets to that fan club, but also make them non-transferable, I can. So that has been preserved in this legislation, which I think many of the artists were adamant about. I'm gonna, if y'all don't mind, since we've had a few questions, I'm gonna invite the gentleman up. Is it Willie Stiggers? Come on up, sir, to the podium. Since we haven't heard from you, love to hear from you. Like the glasses? Appreciate you being here. Go ahead.
Peace. My name is Willie Prophet Stiggers. I'm the co-founder and chair of the Black Music Action Coalition. And I'm also president and CEO of 50/50 Music Group, based right here in the ATL. I'm here today representing BMAC and a coalition of music artists advocacy organizations to express our collective and strong opposition to HB 398. I want to thank all of you for hearing from the artists. There are a lot of people discussing concert tickets and music fans. No one knows and appreciates music fans more than the artists. We represent the artists and they work very hard with the venues to provide the best live experience to as many of their fans as possible. Artists and fans have a special relationship. Artists want as many fans as possible to attend their shows and experience that unique live connection that can only happen at a concert experience. They want their fans to have access to affordable tickets and will set their prices accordingly. Unfortunately, professional scalpers find this as an opportunity to profit off of fans' excitement to see their favorite artists. Unregulated professional ticket scalpers and the secondary platforms that do not care about the artists or fans. In fact, they prey on them. These scalpers deceptively procure tickets and sell them at exorbitant prices, far above the face value set by the artist. When fans buy a ticket on a secondary platform for exorbitant prices, none of that value goes back to the artist or the venue. Artists is trying to prevent this price gouging by scalpers. They are using new innovations and technology like face value exchanges where tickets can be resold from the original purchase price. For these exchanges to work, artists must have the ability to attach resale terms and conditions to tickets. Unfortunately, HB 398 incorrectly strips artists of this right, which will benefit the scalpers who make no investment in the artist or the venue. Scalpers and secondary platforms have been going from state to state promoting this thinly disguised legislation that aids scalpers and strips artists of their ability to control the relationship with their fans. Please continue to support Georgia's strong music industry and continue to make it an artist-friendly destination by letting artists determine how to connect with their fans and preventing these scalpers from taking advantage of that relationship for their own benefit. On behalf of artists and their fans, I ask you to please oppose House Bill 398. Thank you.
Appreciate you being here today. Anybody have questions? I don't think so. All right. All right. At this time, we will adjourn. Get your head wrapped around what's in front of you. We'll be back early in the week to get this taken care of, one way or the other. Appreciate you. Have a good night. Sorry if we kept you.